Hey guys, it's Landon from RH. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can set up a layer to basically track the status of features during a ground survey. So this is a survey, it's almost like an inventory though, so it's a little bit of both, and I'll explain that. Before I tell you what we're going to do, let me explain what we're looking at here. So we've got, this is a site that we're working on for a client. It's an industrial site. It's a port. They're coming in to do some major infrastructure improvements. So they're going to be moving some dirt around, quite a bit of dirt around. And what they need to do is they need to go in and basically get a high quality location of everything that is basically in or on top of the ground within the proposed construction zone. And they need a good high quality location on that. So we have basically two tasks as it relates to that inventory. One is to get a good surveyed grade location, and then the other is to collect attribute data on whatever we're surveying. So there's a GIS element to the project, not just a mapping element. So the attribute data collection is going to be important, and you're going to see how we're going to try and facilitate that here. Now we're doing some other things. We're doing some UAV LiDAR acquisition and some other aerial imagery acquisition and terrestrial imagery acquisition. And so some of that may end up getting integrated into this job GIS that I've set up here. But today, in today's video, we're going to focus on what do we need to do to support basically the management of the ground surveys that are going to happen primarily along the water edge here, where most of the work's going to be done. So I have a basic job GIS set up. I've got some 2012, 1.5 foot resolution ortho imagery from the USGS that I've loaded. It's in Oregon state plane coordinates, the north zone. And I've got some existing survey control we were provided by the client that we recovered and surveyed. I've imported those points just with their published or their record positions. You can see those here. There's 3 of them. So what we want to do now, this is going to end up going out with the field crew as part of their field package, the crews that are going to be doing the aerial mapping and the ground surveys. But what we want to do is we want to set up a layer that allows us to track the features that are surveyed and then what I'm going to call attributed in the field. So it's all the stuff that we're going to find along here. Now, it doesn't look like much, but there's a bunch of stuff in here. My partner Brian went and scouted this job out a few days ago. And so there's I don't know if we have 50 or 500 individual features here or 2,000, but there's a bunch. So that's my favorite word whisker. We want to set up a layer. I think we can do this with one layer. We're going to set up a layer that just allows us to manage that. So we're going to do 2 things. It's going to allow us in the office to track progress and make sure that we don't miss any features. And then it's also going to allow the mappers in the field, the survey crews, to actually do the attribution of the features, in theory. What we may do before we go out and do the ground surveys is there are some old as-built drawings. We may go through those and add some features in their preliminary locations, just kind of GIS-based locations, so that we make sure that we look for those when we're out. Now, there's been changes to the site since some of the as-built drawings were done, so we won't necessarily find everything, but we don't want to miss anything. If we do that, I'll try and remember to do some separate videos that show you how we figure out how to do that in QGIS. So let's go ahead and set this layer up. So we're going to go over here to layer, and we're going to say, we're going to create a layer, and we're going to just make it a new temporary scratch layer for now. And we're going to call it points. I'm trying to think about what I want to call it. Let's call it points. Topo features for now. I'm actually going to call it raw topo features. Now, this is an important thing that surveyors don't understand. Not a lot of surveyors don't understand is we may have some line and polygon features here, but we're not gonna collect them. So surveyors work with points. GIS mappers will sometimes actually collect polygon and line features in the field. We're not going to do that because surveyors like to work with points, and there's good reasons for that. So these are going to be for the raw point observations that we make. Now here's where that gets a little tricky. So let's just say we have 4 point features on, let's say, a water line or a drain line. We're going to survey all those, but we may create one line feature that gets attributed. So I'm going to just go ahead and put on here points. You know what? I don't want. Let's call it. Let's just call it points raw topo. All right, and we need to create some attributes, but I don't want to do that in this dialog. So we're going to say this is a point layer. And by the way, I don't have all this. I didn't script this, so this hasn't all been figured out. So we're going to go ahead and add that. Now let's go into the properties, and we want to set up some attributes. So let's see here. We're going to come down to the fields, and we're going to, let's see, it looks like it's editable, so let's add a new field. So the first thing I want to do is just add the point number. And we're going to call it point identifier. Okay, and that is going to be a whole number, and length of 10 is fine. Okay, so that's our point number, our surveyed point number. Okay, then we have what surveyors have, what we call the feature code. And that is going to be a text. So that's usually a 3 or 4 digit code that tells us basically what we're dealing with. And I'm going to make that, we shouldn't need that. We should be able to get it in 10. So let's add that. Now, I'm going to add, I'm going to add a couple, I'm going to give us a couple opportunities to categorize this. And my partner Brian will have some ability to tweak this design. So I'm going to give it a 50 unit category. So that might be something like the broad utility type like water or electric. But most of what we'll find is going to be utilities. And I'm going to add one more field. Nope, 2 more. We're going to call this feature subtype. And we may not use that on all these, but that's if, so you might have your category might be sewer, and then I'm trying to think. We may not need this because we have the category, but I'm going to go ahead and add it. This is if you have like a subgroup within your feature type. I can't think I can't think of an example. For now, but I'm going to go ahead and add it just to be safe. They may not need it, but we'll go ahead and add it. All right, then we're going to add one more, and we're going to call this, this is just going to be a description. And we're also going to make that a text, and I'm going to give them 500 characters. Okay, I would like to have a field for photos. I think the way I'm going to have to do that though is I'm going to add. For now, I'm just going to add a text string, and we're going to call it photo path. Photos path. We may end up linking to a folder that has multiple photos of the feature of the point. You know what? I'm not going to do that here. Am I going to do that here? I'm not going to do that here. I'm going to do that on the other layer. So let's cancel that. Okay, so we have our basic attributes set up. Let's go ahead and we can look at the attribute form. So this is important because this is going to control how we have things set up in Mergen Maps. So let's see if I can do this in the next couple minutes here. So we're not going to have an alias or comment. We don't want to reuse the last entered value. The mins and max are fine. We do not want to allow a null here. We're going to make them put in a value. So it's not null, and it has to be unique. I think that's all we need for that one. We're going to say enforce the not null and enforce the unique. Feature code. This is fine. The type of widget is a text edit. That's a range. That's fine. Feature code does not need to be multi-line. We're going to say it's got to be not null and unique. Category, not multi-line. We're not going to require them to put a value in here. You know what? I just realized feature code. We do not want feature code to be unique. I'm sorry. Category, they are not going to have to put that in. Feature subtype, they will not have to put in. And description, I'm not going to make them put in a description. We may end up changing that. Now, we do want this to be a multi-line. Okay, so that's going to control how this looks in Mergen Maps, so that's important. So we're going to go ahead and apply that. And we'll hit OK. Now, in order to save that, we need to create one point. So we're going to just create a dummy point here. And so we'll give this a point number. So feature code, I'm going to call this flow line. And the category is going to be drainage. And we don't have a feature subtype. And I'm going to put in here drain ditch. For my description, we'll probably do those all caps. Surveyors like to work in all caps. All right, so that's what the feature looks like. That's really hard to see, obviously. Let's go ahead and save this. Make permanent. Interesting. That might be, I haven't seen that before. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and save this. We're going to put it in our homegrown layer, and we're going to call it points raw topo, and we'll save that. And we'll hit OK. All right, now we want to fix that symbology. So I'm going to come in here, and we're going to go to our properties. And we're just going to make that a little easier to see. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, but I'm going to give it a different color. So I'm going to use our other primary color here, RH. So let me type in that red, green, blue code. And we want to give it a label. So we'll do single label, and we're going to do point identifier. Okay, so you can see now that's showing up. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. Let's make it not editable. Oh, man. I'm getting this error. Did this open up in the wrong version? That's going to suck. No, 3.36 should be working. I might need to do this in 3.34. All right, my layer changes may not have saved, but you get the basic idea of what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to do one more video where I go in and show you how we're actually going to set up the layers for the features themselves, which are going to be created from the raw points. This layer will more than likely get created when we import our survey points. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this video, keep it under 15 minutes, and we'll do another video where I set up the actual layers for the map features.